Greetings and salutations, everybody. Did you know that I am the biggest John Cryer fan in the world? They have a word for people like us. We are called crybabies. I'm just kidding about that, of course, but here is another video about a film in which I feel has been kind of borderline forgotten, and as reminded of when I was making my previous 80s throwback film for Morgan Stewart's Coming Home, which was in this Lost Collection DVD set. If you watch that video, you may remember that I pointed out that on the back of the DVD there was a mistake on the packaging where instead of showing a picture from Morgan Stewart's Coming Home, they were showing a picture from another film of his, which is the one that I want to touch on for this video. It's the 1987 film Hiding Out, which of course is starring Cryer, as well as Annabeth Gish, who you may know from some of the Mike Flanagan works such as Midnight Mass, as well as X-Files, Last Supper, and several more, as well as Keith Coogan, who you may know from some other 80s films such as Adventures in Babysitting, Toy Soldiers, and Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. Now, the synopsis for this film is as follows. A stockbroker on the run from the mob decides to hide out from them by enrolling as a high school student. So, revisiting this one was interesting because I must have seen this one several times on cable back in the day, because so much of this film I remembered perfectly, especially as the scene was unfolding, I was just remembering it almost verbatim. So I must have seen this one several times way back in the day. So as it says, Cryer plays this young but successful broker of sorts who had gotten mixed up in some bad business and is expected to kind of testify against this mobster guy. And he plays this very well. But even throughout the beginning, as we are establishing the situation of the trouble that he got himself into, how everything kind of falls apart and then he has to go on the run, we still get a lot of these bits of comedy kind of thrown in there, which continue throughout the entire film. So it never really feels too heavy. So basically he ends up like shaving off his beard, accidentally dyeing only the sides of his hair blonde, and still having that kind of young look. He realizes, he goes to this high school where he planned to meet his aunt, who works at the school, who also is played by Gretchen Cryer, who is actually John Cryer's mother in real life. But anyways, while his character's at that school, he discovers that he can just kind of slide in as a student and hide a bit further. So while he's there, he ends up running into his nephew and decides, after connecting with him, to just kind of stay hidden as a student, because nobody would really suspect that. Now, since he's older and more experienced, of course, in the ways of the world, he kind of treats the situation of high school very different, and especially the way that he treats any of the authority figures there. And it definitely gets to this point where he starts to attract a lot of attention as the new kid who's a bit of a rebel in some ways because he's speaking out against some of the stuff in school, even though his whole point of being there was trying to stay kind of low-key. Now, this is definitely a bit of a threat because, these mobsters are out looking for him. They're trying to track him down. And even more so, he even begins to develop feelings for one of the students, though he does keep things, really platonic for the most part. But eventually things get kind of dicey as we close in towards a climax of these mobsters kind of coming after him, the FBI being involved, and so on. We get a lot of these thriller aspects. But what makes this film kind of stand out is that we get that high-stakes thriller aspect of him being the stockbroker on the run from the mob, expected to testify against a mob boss, yet thrown into some comedic aspects, as he tries to stay undercover in high school and how he clashes with that, while also this slight bit of like a romantic side kind of on top as he's kind of falling for this other student. I think it is the comedy that kind of saves this film from just being some run-of-the-mill thriller kind of film, and I'm surprised that this is yet another one that kind of slid under the radar, and I just really hear no mention of it these days because after, revisiting it on DVD, it was really enjoyable and still worth checking out. And speaking of checking out, thanks for checking out this other quick little video here for Hiding Out from 1987 starring John Cryer, Annabeth Gish, and Keith Coogan, which at the time of this video is only available on paid rental, but it's definitely worth a couple bucks. But also, I picked that one up on DVD as it was another cheap title in that Lost Collection like Morgan Stewart's Coming Home. Where I think it's like $9 or $10 maybe, so it's definitely worth scooping up. Anyways, that's about all I have for this video. Again, apologize for being so light last week. I was definitely way under the weather, but I do have some new videos up there worth checking out. I just did one the other day for The Omen 2, for Damien The Omen 2, as I'm going through that franchise. And a few days before, I did another one of the Elvira entries for the movie Macabre, as she had presented Werewolf of Washington, starring Dean Stockwell, which was interesting. But anyways, got a lot of stuff in the back catalog. I realized recently that I've crossed over 200 videos that I've made just regarding movies. Again, they are all usually just recommendations. Try to go in spoiler free and to try to keep things positive. But so anyways, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe and share everything around. and I will see you in the next one.